In the book of 1 Kings, chapter 18, there is this story of a great showdown between God's prophet Elijah and 450 prophets of the Canaanite god Baal. Israel was constantly tempted to worship the gods of their neighbors, and Elijah had been sent to demonstrate to all of Israel who was the one and only true God. The story goes that in this showdown, both sides would place their sacrifice on a stone altar and then petition their God to send fire to consume the sacrifice. Elijah allowed the Baal prophets to go first. They prayed and paced around the altar, hours passing as they grew louder and more frantic. They eventually began to cut themselves and cry out, yelling and limping around their altar. Still, nothing happened. As evening came, Elijah calmly stepped forward. He asked that water be poured over the sacrifice and the altar, making its combustion even more impossible. Then Elijah called to the people, "Come over here." They all crowded around him as he repaired the altar of the Lord that had been torn down. He took 12 stones, one to represent each of the tribes of Israel, and he used the stones to rebuild the altar in the name of the Lord. And then he prayed, "O Lord, God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, prove today that you are God in Israel and that I am your servant. Answer me so these people will know that you, O Lord, are God and that you have brought them back to yourself." Immediately, the fire of the Lord flashed down from heaven and burned up the young bull, the wood, the stones, and even the dust. It even licked up all the water in the trench. And when all the people saw it, they fell face down on the ground and cried out, "The Lord, He is God." It's easy to focus on the powerful lone image of Elijah set against the desperate prophets of Baal. Still, the whole story is really about the massed crowd of Israelites watching, waiting, and responding in awe and worship. It happened so that they might realize the foolishness of their own idol worshiping, the way in which they had trusted and hoped that idol gods would help them grow bigger harvests and families. The ancient gods were always like that, a means to an end. Their idols a mechanism for trying to gain the god's attention. Most of us don't think of our lives as related to idolatry, but the compulsion to trust and hope in something we can see and control is universal. We may not carve them out of wood or cast them in gold, but our own lives are littered with things we're hoping will give us meaning and happiness and wealth. Good and created things, which by our impassioned pursuits become ultimate things. Elijah wanted Israel to see that the idols they trusted didn't have the power to deliver what they promised. And we're forced to recognize the way our own misplaced hoping in things fail us. As the Apostle Paul would put it in the book of Romans, we worship and serve the things God created instead of the Creator Himself. For as Paul says in Galatians, we were slaves to so-called gods that do not even exist. Why is it that we think a job is going to make us worth something, or that a relationship will make us perpetually happy? Can you buy peace of mind or barter for love? Yet the world constantly tells us that there is just one more thing we're missing. Sex, reputation, success, a better house, a better car, a scholarship, or that perfect job. So we give what we have in worship of that ideal image, hoping that we will receive in return. Can't you see those prophets of Baal mindlessly crying out and spilling their own blood? Our own desperate pursuits, the way we too give our lives and mindlessly consume what the world tells us is our hope. We worship idols, offering God's ultimate value to things of this world. Idolatry is not an ancient practice. It's the way our distorted hearts misplace the worship God alone deserves. God's fire didn't fall on Elijah's altar to impress Israel. It fell to free them. to free them from the lie of their idols, and to free them from the life-draining price idols always demand. So too, we see it. We see how God would not only send fire, but even his own Son, so that we might finally see the way in which our false gods fail us, and come to do like Israel did, to fall on our faces and cry out, "The Lord, he is God." Listen,